Welcome back to the Corner of Story and Game, where we delve into the art and science of storytelling and game design. I'm your host, Gerald Ford, and today we're exploring the nuanced world of idle games, those captivating experiences that blend active entertainment with passive progression, offering players a unique blend of relaxation and involvement. Joining us today is Ayla Derrick, the founder and creative director at Cave Bear Games. She leads a studio comprised entirely of junior developers, and together they're crafting Plantasia, a cozy Solarpunk idle game that invites players to restore life to barren worlds through the nurturing of plants. Ayla, thank you for joining me.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. It's my first little video appearance in a while, and I've seen your stuff, and I've seen so many of my own mentors on your show, so I'm very happy to join them and get on their level.
Well, you are in with quite the crew there. There's some fantastic people over at GameDesignSkills.com, and Rudy and Alex and the gang are incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
They are.
just collecting you all slowly.
I love that.
Okay, well, before we dig into the topic of the day, and the topic of the day is idle games in general, but we're going to dig into all kinds of different aspects and your indie studio, Cave Bear Games, and Plantasia, and all these things. But before we get into it, I do like to start with your origin story. How did you fall in love with gaming? How did you fall in love with making games? Where did you come from? What was your story?
Oh, such a good question. I've been playing games for a while. I remember playing The Sims 2 on the PS2 when I was young. I couldn't tell you my first game, but my memory is all jumbled in the timeline. But I think one of my earlier games was actually World of Warcraft, Burning Crusade, that was introduced to me by a lovely cousin of mine, who was much older and was very into WoW. And it's quite a game to put on. Gosh, I must have been like 7 or 8. And he actually would not let us, me and my brother, play the undead race. He thought the cannibalism, race trait was too much for us. And so I don't remember what other race. I think I played a Tauren druid as my first character. And WoW is definitely a top game of mine, but I played so many other different types of games. Like I said, The Sims, Webkins, Neopets, growing up. And I always considered myself a very casual gamer. I had 2 brothers growing up, and they wouldn't let me play Halo with them. So I just kind of watched and never learned how to shoot a virtual gun. And so I'm not very good at combat games. And so, yeah, very casual gamer. I never really even considered games as like a job or career. And I don't know if that's just because of the woman thing or just my inability to code or math or anything like that. And so instead I went into teaching, and it was something that I knew that I could do. But I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to do. But, it's a hard decision for an 18-year-old to make, and we really just keep making them make that decision. But yeah, I graduated and I went into education, and it was fine. Like I said, I could do it. Wasn't my favorite thing in the world. And one day I just kind of realized that I could work in games, that I didn't have to know how to code, that my background in English and writing might actually be able to help me in this. And once I kind of clicked that in my head, I was like, oh, well, that's an easy decision. Let's go do that instead. And, one thing led to another. And now we're here with my own little studio that's going so well. And it's been absolutely the best year of my life for sure.
And speaking of your studio and Cave Bear Games, what kicked that off? What was the ignition point there?
I mean, I think it's the same as a lot of people. I just wanted to make a game. I didn't know how to do it by myself. As a brand new game writer, I didn't want to make what everyone was telling me to make, which was a Twine game for my portfolio, because I don't really like narrative games. I like writing in games, but I don't like specifically narrative games, and that's just my own personal opinion. And so I was having a hard time really trying to do that, but I knew I needed a game on my portfolio or I was never going to get hired. And so finally, I just kind of had an idea for a game. I thought it was good. I thought it was relevant to the market. I thought it could possibly succeed. But even that wasn't really the focus. I thought it was a good game idea. I wanted to make it. And I thought I could convince some people who I had met recently in my transition to do it with me. I was right. We got a few people. And it was really just supposed to be a portfolio project, nothing fancy, a short 6-month project. And then we went viral on LinkedIn. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, well, like maybe we can do something bigger with this. And so now we're a 15-person team. We're coming up on a year and we're releasing onto Steam for actual money. We release on Monday, which we're filming this on the 27th of March, and it comes out on the 31st of March. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm very interested to see how it goes.
So, speaking of the game, Plantasia, what leading us into the topic of idle games, give me the elevator pitch on what is Plantasia.
Yes, Plantasia is a cozy idle gardening game in space where you are a botanist researcher growing and breeding and discovering alien flora in order to revitalize barren planets that you are orbiting down below. But what is really unique about Plantasia that we are seeing pop up elsewhere in the industry is that our game sits on the bottom third of your computer screen, and so it does not take up your entire monitor. So you are able to play this idle game at the same time as you are working or studying or watching videos or scrolling Facebook or LinkedIn or playing even another game. Plantasia does not require your 100% attention at all times. In fact, it does not want it. Plants can take, upwards of half an hour or more to grow. And so Plantasia is there for you when you are truly idle and when you do need a break from whatever it is you're doing. And you can come and click some happy little plants, decorate your space station a little bit, and then go back to whatever it is you were doing without having to go on your phone and scroll TikTok for 3 hours like we all do.
That's brilliant. You say that's actually a trend right now? Like I haven't seen it. I haven't played idle games since the early 2000s, and it was browser-based stuff. So it's been a while since I've been deep into an idle, but
Yeah,
that's clever. That's smart.
I can't claim it. It originated with Rusty's Retirement, which released in earlier 2024. It's just a pixel farming game that rests on the bottom third of your screen. And I saw that game and I was following it on TikTok. I was waiting for it to come out and the demo came out. And I saw it and it was almost an instant idea that I had for Plantasia because I knew it would work so well. So now there are several other games in development. Some I think are already released that sit on the bottom portion of your screen. Some take that even further than we do and do even different kinds of portions. Like I know one game is being developed that is completely like modular. Well, not modular. That's not the right word. Dynamic almost. You can make it a square in the corner of your screen. You can make it any size rectangle that you want anywhere on your screen, and it adapts to that. And that is super cool. It's not out yet. It's in early development, so I don't want to like burst their bubble or anything. And then some, take it a little bit further where everything is transparent except a little bunny going across your screen on the bottom. We're just seeing a lot of that, like what I'm calling portion of the screen games. And I think we're going to see it a lot more in the future.
Clever. I like it. Okay, well, let's dig into idle games and seeing as we're halfway there anyway. So to move us in there, can you tell us what your definition, how do you define the genre? And then from there, what is it about idle games that is so engaging for modern gamers?
Yeah, so idle games have an interesting history. I think one of the first pioneers of idle clicker games was Cookie Clicker, a browser-based game back in the day that I think we all can remember, and it was widely popular. But despite starting as browser games, idle games really moved and succeeded on mobile, and they have mobile idle games. And I'm actually personally not a fan of mobile idle games. I think they took this idea of not having to have active play and really kind of, I don't know, destroyed that. I'm being very mean. But I have found in my experience that a lot of mobile idle games really prey on wanting you to stay in the game and click for as long as humanly possible, despite being an idle game where you're not supposed to have to do that. And so I'm kind of trying to bring it back to the originalness of it and kind of innovating on that and saying, hey, idle, it's truly idle. I want you to be truly idle. I don't want you to have to feel like you need to be in here all the time. And it's here for you just when you truly need it. And we are seeing that more, I think. I mean, Rusty's retirement didn't need you to be in the game all the time. The plants grew on their own. It had little automation bots that would harvest the plants for you. Um, we're seeing that in, I think I'm trying to remember the other game. It's something creatures, little creatures or pasture creatures or something. That where they just kind of run around on the bottom of your screen, these little farm animals, and you can take care of them when you want. And I like that idea. I like that it's here to kind of partner with whatever else that you are doing. Um, yeah, and so that's kind of my goal is to supplement your everyday life with these games. We think about playtimes as game developers, like what playtimes can we find to introduce our game into the life of people, and the playtimes we have as an industry used all those playtimes. Every second of the day we are trying to find a way to input our games, but work and sleep are kind of the ones that aren't used as often. And obviously there are sleep games, I guess, but you're not actually like playing them when you're asleep. And so I'm trying to do the like work and studying student part and allowing these games to come in a non intrusive way. In fact, I hope that Plantasia can be helpful to your work process and your student process, and it is a focus tool of some sort, and be a benefit to your everyday life and your work life and your student life.
Very cool. So Plantasia introduces Solarpunk themes and the idea of reclaiming planets into the idle gameplay. How do you think themes that are chosen for idle games enhance the player engagement or break it? How do they enhance or alter the overall experience?
I think it puts us in an entirely different world that we may not have thought about before. And it's interesting that I'm making a Solarpunk game because the games that I play are almost exclusively like medieval. Like I said, I never learned how to shoot a gun, and so I don't play games with guns, which are modern or sci-fi. I play games with bows and arrows because for some reason that is different and it works for me. And so the fact that I am doing a Solarpunk game is unique, but I do enjoy the genre when it works for me. And so that's kind of what I'm creating is a Solarpunk that works for me. But also, Solarpunk is a growing genre. I think the world in general is warming up to the idea of living in tandem with the earth, as well as, inventing technologies that balance us with the earth. I'm a big fan of that. So that's cool. And it has a certain vibe as well of like calm and restorative nature that I enjoy. And then also Plantasia specifically, it explores a world where that founded and became what it is differently to how our world did. So our world became the way it is via a lot of colonization. And so our game introduces a world that did not have colonization, and the Latin American cultures were able to continue to thrive as they were already thriving before our intervention, and continue to thrive and now rule the world and explore what maybe that would look like. And part of that is those cultures had very close connections to the earth, and so they continue to have that in our very futuristic game. And so, yeah, I think different kind of genres and settings and themes explore worlds that, we don't get to experience here in our real lives, and help us learn more about other cultures, learn more about what we enjoy and what we think is important in life. And hopefully Plantasia will showcase a bit of that.
That's brilliant. I love that. It's so important that games have themes like that push us to think outside the box or examine other points of view or think about what could have happened had we gone a different way. I love it. I love it. But I'm curious, did it come to you in a box like this concept, or was there a process along the way? I hate asking the question, where did the idea come from? Because that's so cliche, but where did the idea come from?
Yeah. as Plantasia is coming to a close and I'm trying to think of new game ideas, I'm finding it much harder than Plantasia was. Plantasia really almost did come in a box. It came very instantly, a very clear vision. I played Rusty's Retirement. I said, this whole bottom of the screen format thing, fantastic. Let's do that. And I was immediately paired that with a game from my childhood called Plant Tycoon, which was released in 2007, which was an idle plant growing game, but it took up your whole screen. And when you closed it, the plants continued to grow. So I was a kid in school and I would plant my plants in the morning and I'd come home from school and they'd all be dead. And that was really frustrating. So I never got very far in the game. But I loved it. I loved that game. I don't know why. I just loved it. And so I saw this and I said, hey, I can have Plant Tycoon open at the bottom of my screen all day and my plants aren't going to die. And plants can't die in Plantasia. So it's not a risk at all. But yeah, that two combinations instantly was in my head as soon as I opened up the Rusty's Retirement demo. And then Solarpunk kind of came a little bit after. I just enjoy the genre. I saw that it was rising in popularity. I enjoy sci-fi, but I've never really explored it on my own. Like I said, I play medieval games, but I didn't want a farming game specifically. I wanted a gardening game. I wanted houseplants. Our houseplant people love houseplants. I can't grow houseplants because I kill them, and I'm sure many people feel the same and want to be able to grow plants that can't die on their computer. And those that do have houseplants are like, "Oh, yay, I get more houseplants on my computer." Absolutely sick. I'm super down with that. And so that's kind of where it came from. And Solarpunk really just kind of fit into the themes that I wanted. Cozy, like not really bad things happening. And while there are technically bad things happening in our story, you discover that on your own and you help, resolve it. So, yes.
Very cool. Sounds like a game I got to get for my wife. She kills all of our plants.
She would love it. She would love it. The game is definitely made with women in mind. There's some stats and the what I say might not be fully accurate, so please don't quote me. But I think women have surpassed 50% of gamers. However, women gamers, about like 80% or something of them are strictly mobile gamers. And I did just talk about mobile idle games and how I hate them. So I'm really, honestly, with Plantasia, one of my really selfish goals that who knows if it'll work or not is to be able to bring those women mobile gamers onto PC with Plantasia and then open up the whole world of PC gaming to them, because I just think it's better. That's just me. No hate on mobile developers, but that's just me.
I'm curious, from your point of view and from what you've been doing with Cape Bear Games, how do you ensure that a game is accessible?
Yeah, I owe a lot of that to Stephanie Torrero, who is our UI UX designer. She is very, very knowledgeable on that, and I'm truly not. I've had my own unique experience, and obviously I have a very open mind, and I give people the benefit of the doubt, and I try to understand their experiences. But who knows if I'm any good at it? But Stephanie, she is constantly like checking for our accessibility standards and checking to make sure that the colors and the fonts and just everything works together with our art director, Aiden, to make sure everything is accessible, and listening to the feedback that we get that we now have thanks to our demo and Steam Next Fest. But really what I'm trying to do is make a game for women, for the girls, gays, and nays, as I have said in the past. I grew up with brothers who wouldn't let me play Halo, right? So that impacted the kinds of games that I play. And I've realized growing up and being a gamer now as an adult and my critical thinking skills that I enjoy a lot of games for their story and for their experiences, for their art styles. But I almost always have to deal with combat, no matter the game. And I love games, but I almost never love the combat. And that's just me. There are people, our lead designer is Tanner, is a huge combat guy. He loves combat. That's his whole thing. And obviously he's working on a game with no combat, so that's something. But, I just don't, I think that there are so many unique game styles, roguelikes and RPGs and narratives and just so many things. And a lot of them rely on combat. And I think we can do that. I think we can do without that in some games. And I think there are a lot of gamers like me who would appreciate that and would be interested in seeing that and interested in seeing worlds that don't result in violence. physical violence. So let's talk about, other themes like, our game talks about climate change in a way and loneliness in a way. And so our players can explore those themes through peaceful ways of growing plants and communication with NPCs rather than, fighting it out to the death. And so while that's not traditional accessibility, I think it's definitely a growing desire from gamers, especially since most are women now. Yeah, and I want to explore that. I think cozy games have risen in popularity for a reason. We're seeing Tales of the Shire come out, which is a cozy Hobbit game, and Lord of the Rings is famously violent. There's a lot of fighting in that, and yet it's still very beloved for the world building. And so, Tales of the Shire is expected to do well. I'm very excited about it as a Lord of the Rings fan. Stardew Valley and Rune Factory and all these other cozy games have been extremely popular, and they don't have to have fighting. And so I want to explore that, and Plantasia is the start.
Brilliant. What you're talking about is ensuring that games are being released that are engaging and interesting for underrepresented groups of people.
Yeah.
Is the key there just to make different games, try new things? Is that really the key, you think, to getting those people involved and getting games out there for those people?
Yeah, I mean, if a game exists that someone would like, ideally they can find it and they can play it. But games have limitless possibilities. And I'm coming from a non-gaming background, so I feel like as a transfer into the industry, I do bring a more unique thought process to game design. But I'm also super new and I don't know a lot, so I'm constantly learning. But yeah, I want to explore. I don't want to just make the next Skyrim, right? However cool that would be. I want to make games that don't exist yet. I want to figure out what is missing. And in my opinion, it's cozy games for girls, right? So I want to explore that more, and I think I love the way that the industry is going because I think it is supporting that, and I want to be a part of it. I think we can go further. I think we can make games that are notorious, game genres that are notorious for combat, and I want to make them non-combat and see how that works.
Nice. We need more of that. We need more people coming in and just throwing in completely new ideas and trying
Yep.
all these cool and wacky things. That's exciting. That's cool. Okay. We're almost done the core subject here, but I am curious a little bit about Cave Bear Games, studio founded by and for junior developers. That is such a cool idea. But how has the studio, the way it's formed and how it's formed and who makes it up, how has that impacted the formation of Plantasia? How the game that's come out of such a unique studio, what impact did that have on the game?
Interesting question. That whole buy and for juniors thing was a total accident. It was just something I wrote down in a LinkedIn post, didn't expect it to go anywhere. We were just all juniors, and I assumed that no experienced developer would want to work for free with a team of juniors. So I figured we'd probably be staying juniors if we grew at all. And then I was sort of forced into that hole after we went viral, but I was happy to. It was fine. Our team is fantastic and we're all juniors and none of us have gotten an official job in games. And it's crazy that we haven't because some of us are crazy talented, most of us. So yeah, it just kind of happened, but I'm happy to continue with that trend. I think it's near impossible for us to get jobs. And it's not our fault. It's just the market. But yeah, I think it has absolutely impacted Plantasia's development. One of the reasons that I eventually decided to not pursue funding was because I didn't want any expectations outside of my own to affect the team. This is first and foremost a portfolio project. So it is supposed to showcase the talent and the skill and the ingenuity of our team members. It's a bigger team. We have 15 people at the moment. And so everyone is specialized because that is what the market is calling for. I didn't want us to be a traditional indie that was very, very small with everyone wearing a lot of hats. I wanted us to reflect the careers that we wanted to have in the industry. And so everyone is doing kind of one thing. And so with that freedom of few expectations. They really are able to think outside of the box, think about what they really love to do and how they want to impact Plantasia. And they have the freedom to do that. They have the creativity and the room to explore what they want. And so, I think Plantasia has become very well-rounded. We have good game design, unique game design. We have narrative in there. We have amazing art, amazing music, like amazing UX, UI design. Like everything is working together so well, and it's become much more robust than I initially thought it was going to be. And I think that also makes us a little bit different from the other bottom of the screen portion games is, those are kind of strictly idle. They usually don't have narrative. They usually don't explore all of the avenues of game design, whereas we are able to do that. And I think that is because of the freedom of the team size and the timeline and the creativity and the no funding kind of aspect.
So cool. So cool. You guys are killing it. Okay, well, before we completely wrap up the core subject here, just put a nice little bow on it. If you were to give a piece of advice to somebody thinking of starting an idle game or working on an idle game, something specific to that genre, what's something you've learned along the way that you can pass along? Not to put you on the spot.
No, it's good. It's a good question. I mean, obviously, I think the first step is to know your history. That's what I did as I learned about the history of idle games, where they went, how it worked, why they worked, and then eventually settled on what I want to do differently with it. And that is where I came up with the whole, it's truly idle. True idle is what I'm calling it, whatever. Where it's there for you when you need it and not all the time. I don't want your attention all the time. So that in itself is unique to games. I think most games are fighting for your attention all the time and your continued and repeated attention. And so we're unique there, and that definitely helps that we don't have funding breathing down our back trying to get the numbers up. And that's definitely a form of freedom as well. But for idle games and yeah, do your research, know what is already out there, and then figure out the gaps, figure out what you can do differently, how you can change the genre, but also just figure out exactly what the players do enjoy in idle games, and then, pursue that. And I'm not an expert in idle games. It's kind of something I fell into. I don't know if I will make more idle games or not. I do like the genre. I like the idea of being able to incorporate idle games into different areas of life that don't currently have games. I think idle games are uniquely positioned to do that. And so maybe think about like, hey, what situations can this idle game fill? Like what that isn't currently being filled. There's a lot. And you can go like the clicker route, like cookie clicker, where you really do want their attention all of the time. Or you can go more of a Plantasia, Rusty's Retirement route, where it's more automation all of the time, and you're building that big automation output, stuff like that. So I think it's a genre that it started one way and then really veered off into another way. And now I'm kind of going back to the original way a little bit. And so there's a wide variety of things that you do here, and just explore.
Brilliant. Cool. Well, I think that wraps up the core subject. Before we start heading for the door and I ask my fun little questions, I do have one question that I ask everybody who comes on the show. If you've listened to even one episode, you've probably heard it before, but I'm going to ask it to you anyways. And it's kind of a weird one, so bear with me. In my opinion, there's a magical space at the intersection of obviously story and game, but also improv, comic book writing, fiction, movies, all these things where we can all just get together. There's a shared language. There's a fellowship. It's a community, really. If you agree with me, and not everybody does, but if you do, what is the magical thread that holds that space together?
Such a good question, and I hate philosophy. It's like my least favorite thing. No, but I do think it really comes down to experiences. And I know we hear like game industry folk talk about, experiences all the time. And for me, when I was a kid, I didn't have the freedom to experience a lot of stuff. And so I was very materialistic back then. I wanted things, but as an adult, and I have now this more freedom to experience the world and learn about the world, I've become a very curious mind. And so I want to experience everything that the world has to offer and not just, stick within my little bubble of wherever it is I'm at. And I think that's what games do. And I think a lot of us know that. But I've seen a trend of like game industry when they talk about experiences, it's very kind of black and white and money driven and like what new experiences can we bring to people and then have them stay in that experience for as long as possible. I don't know. I just think of it differently. I think, games do give us stories and they give us mechanics and gameplay. And those both are differing experiences. And when games bring them together, I think that's really magical. I think Hogwarts Legacy was huge for me because I have wanted to explore Hogwarts in good graphics forever and not just Minecraft with their blocks, And so it was that experience that I was able to experience differently than I've experienced it before in the books and the movies. I was really like in it. And, obviously Plantasia isn't a known IP, it's a new IP. And so it's just a different way to look at what our world could be in the future. But yeah, and the story really comes with that. The story allows you to kind of forge your own spots and your own opinions in the world, in that experience. So yeah, experiences, I guess, is my answer.
It's a great answer. It's a great answer. I love it. That's fantastic. Well, that brings us to the end of it. Before we head for the door, I do like to open up a little space for you to signal boost, talk about something maybe, I don't know, something that might be coming out sometime soon. And also, where can people find you online?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Plantasia comes out in a couple of days. It will be only $5. We're releasing into early access. So our main goal is not financial success. It is visibility. It's a portfolio project, right? And so we want to hear your experience with the game. And you can tell us that experience through our Discord, the Cave Bear Games Discord channel. We have a section for Plantasia and a channel for community feedback. And we would love to hear what you think of this kind of new genre of games and what you want to see from it in the future. But also, we are a team of juniors. We don't have jobs. We would love them. So if you are impressed, if you're in the industry and you are impressed by our game or certain aspects of our game, maybe reach out to me or reach out to our team members and see if there is some opportunity there. We would appreciate it. But other than that, yeah, please join our Discord, the K-Bear Games Discord. I'm sure you will link it.
Cool.
You can find me mostly on LinkedIn. I'm there constantly at Ayla Derrick on LinkedIn. You can also find me through our Discord. I'm on there as well. I honestly don't do any other social medias, so I'm sorry. Discord and LinkedIn are kind of it. But yeah, our team is all very active in our Discord, so I'd say that's definitely the number one place to go. But you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok and all of the socials.
Excellent. Well, Ayla, thank you so much. This was a blast. I learned so much, and that was fun. I'm gonna push you out the door. But on the way out, I would love to give you the last word. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for me?
Yes. I deal mostly with juniors in the industry, people who want to break in just because they have this immense passion. And something I've learned over the past year is you just have to do it. Start making a game, ideally with the team if you can, to get those team collaboration skills, and ideally to publish so that you have a published game under your belt. But the idea is just do it. It doesn't matter if it's bad. It doesn't matter if it doesn't go anywhere ever. You learn something from every experience, and you need to get as many in as possible. And just kind of twiddling your thumbs and waiting for an opportunity to come to you is not going to work. You have to do it for yourself. That is why Cave Bear Games has been successful so far. And you can do it too. If we can do it, you can do it.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the Corner of Story and Game. A heartfelt thanks to Ayla Derrick for sharing your insights into the development of idle games and the importance of inclusivity in game design. And to you, dear listener, I hope today's discussion has provided you with a deeper appreciation for the thoughtful craftsmanship behind games like Plantasia. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to follow the podcast on your platform of choice, leave a review or comment, and hey, come swing by the Discord server and join the conversation. Until next time, keep telling stories, playing games, and creating worlds worth getting lost in. Stay safe, Wanderer. Your chair will be ready by the fire the next time you stop in at the Corner of Story and Game.